somebody's property or whatever. And apparently he was drilling and he got his nuts all tangled up in the power drill. But yeah, Bryce Mitchell's a funny guy. I was glad to see he got announced for another fight. I always like when Bryce comes out there. He was the one that got the different colored trunks for the UFC. He was the one that got got the camo trunks for the UFC.
Me and Travis talked about
do
that. We gotta get camo power on the show, man. As soon as we develop any kind of base recording. All right, guys. Absolutely. Hey, let's dive into it, man. It's the Guys MMA podcast. You're not reading it wrong. It's GIS for geese, but we are clever, so we named it the Guys. If you're looking for pronunciation, you're not going to find it here because we can't even pronounce the city that we live in correctly. Shout out to Louisville/Louisville. We got Pineapples Don't Go on Pizza. You know me, Travozombieface, and Preston Never Resting, always flexing. Roby, how we feeling, guys?
I'm feeling. I need to let you know pineapples do go on pizza, but
I kind of felt like that was coming, man. I knew if we started the podcast, he was going to do that. And it's probably going to be like at every podcast.
I'm neutral. I'm neutral on the pineapples topic. It's kind of a sometimes thing for me. But we're doing great. We're doing awesome. I mean, we had a good week of fights. Had a lot coming out of this weekend. A lot of stuff to talk about from 280. I was going to kind of want to kick it off with Krylov.
Go for it.
Yeah. So Krylov versus Oezdemir was a big one on the undercard. Anytime I see Volkan Oezdemir, I just always remember the no time Volkan. Yeah. I mean, that guy used to be a legend. I mean, he seemed like he was going to be a champion at one point. I mean, he fought Daniel Cormier at one point for the title. But it's been a long time since those days, and Oezdemir's kind of fallen off since then. He came out strong. There was a big bang fest at the beginning. Everybody was going at each other.
It came out hot.
Yeah, I didn't know. Yeah. It looked like that fight might get finished in the first round. But I think over time, the takedowns that we saw from Krylov might have been the difference there.
He's definitely got the wrestling on his side. I would definitely give him that. And
no, absolutely.
Repetitive takedowns will just drain your batteries so fast. I'm really out of shape, so I couldn't imagine having to go against that. But
no, yeah. And it's not just that either. I felt like in the second and third rounds, he had done such a good job establishing those takedowns that the threat of the takedown was ultimately what, set up his punches and his striking, because his striking didn't look bad either. In the second half of that fight, it looked like he might even score a knockout win at a couple points. But, that's the way she crumbles sometimes. And as far as Oezdemir goes, I mean, he is on must-win territory. I mean, he's been there for a little bit. Like I said earlier,
kind of struggling.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many fights that guy has left on his contract. But if it's one, he's got to win that one.
Yeah, most certainly. He's got to pull a W out of the magic hat, let's say. He's really kind of lost his traction. Like we were discussing, he came out hot out of the gate. Then it kind of seemed like he got a little complacent, maybe a little defeated mentally. And anybody could take a guess as what that would do to your ego.
Right.
Obviously going to slow you down. Yeah.
Definitely.
Obviously slow you down, make you think about things, rethink about things, hesitate, which you cannot do in the cage. So.
And who knows, he might retire and then unretire and then retire and unretire. We got a couple of those situations going on this weekend we'll talk about too. What about the Brady Muhammad fight, Trav?
Bilal Muhammad never ceases to amaze. The dude is on fire right now. I think he is really charging through this division. He made light work of Wonder Boy Thompson. Really took it to him with his wrestling. Just outworked him the whole fight. I think he's got a bright future with the UFC, and really excited to see his next fight coming up.
Yeah. Sure, man.
No, absolutely. It was a total masterclass by Bilal this weekend. I mean, from start to finish, he had Brady on his back heels, came away with that early second round finish.
Yeah.
You know, and with Kamaev and Colby being announced for 284, he's got a couple fight potentials there. I mean, Gilbert Burns is always sitting there at number 5.
Yeah, Bilal is now calling out Kobe, saying that he wants a chunk of the old American gangster, in his words. I'm not a fan of him, but I think that's an interesting fight. They both have aggressive wrestling, very, very powerful wrestling. It all depends on who can impose their will early on in the fight, I think. But both of them have the gas tank to go the distance. So it's very unpredictable outcome, I think.
Well, Colby's got to beat Kamaev first. I don't see that happening.
No.
And to be honest, I don't see Bilal beating Kamaev either. So I think you might see him kind of stagnate a little bit there at the bottom of that top 5, 4 or 5 position.
Yeah, he's definitely upper echelon, but I think Hamzat has secured the position as he hasn't got it yet, but it's very likely he's going to be the lone wolf at number 1 for a long time.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, he retired Kevin Holland for a week or two, and had him questioning his whole life decisions. But I think he's going to be a threat to anybody in that division, and it's going to be another Kamaru Usman situation. He's going to dominate it for a long time.
I do tend to disagree on that. I think that, because we've already saw that Bilal did. It was a no contest, but I think for all intents and purposes that no contest to Leon was a loss. We saw that it was a pretty one-sided fight all the way until he got, the eye poke situation happened. I see Bilal being more like of a gatekeeper type. That guy that when the new guys are starting to come up, he's going to be a guy that you're going to have to get past to establish yourself. Whereas he's more of like I like the ranking at 4 for him. That's a good spot because he can hang around there, keep that access.
That's why I'm saying Chimaev is going to be number 1 for a while.
Oh, Chimaev. You're talking about Chimaev. No. I thought you were talking about Bilal. No, yeah. Chimaev, when he finally does. Yeah. No, when he gets his hands around that belt, I honestly think he's going to try to shoot up to 185 and win that belt as well. He's got a lot of the media attention on him, for sure. No, Kamaev by no means is a gatekeeper.
Chimaev was fighting Ariane Celeste. To be honest with you, the dude wants to fight anybody and everybody.
He does. He does.
It's hard to deny his aspirations, and intensity. But
always with the I smash you, brother. I smash you. That's what I smash you, brother.
Right. But he has the skill to back up that smash talk.
He does. He does.
So we're not going to talk about every fight on the card, man. But Preston had an opinion on one of the fights. What was you saying about women shouldn't fight in the UFC as far as the main card and only on the prelims and on the undercard? It was before we started the show, so I couldn't remember. I didn't record. What'd you say?
Well, that's not what I said. What I said was I would have thought that that fight would have been over the Menon Fior fight.
What fight was it?
The Chukagian Fior fight. I felt that should have been headlining the prelims, and Bilal Muhammad should have been on the in the main card.
Yeah,
it had nothing to do with gender and everything to do with the what was at stake. Fior did go up to number 1. So we could see her fight Valentina. It is interesting because we're going to see a fresh face in that top 5 for the women's flyweight division. But Shevchenko is an animal. I think she's going to dominate that division until she's ready to retire or Father Time catches up to her. Nobody's ever beaten Father Time, so eventually your day is going to come. But I don't see that day being anytime soon.
Yeah, Chukagian Fior was it was going to be a decision fight. Both are strikers. No offense to the ladies out there, none of that. Not saying that, but we know, fights like that tend to be 3-round decisions.
I mean, they're already making less money than us, and they already can't fight. So, I mean, why would they even make the main? I mean, so it's the same thing with the WNBA. Why does it even exist, right?
That's not true.
No, I disagree.
That's not true. That's not true. That's not true. No, that's not true. Women's fighting is way more exciting than the WNBA. And there's a lot of great women fighters out there. And Chookagian and Fior are great fighters. I just felt like Bilal versus Sean was a more interesting fight.
I agree with that.
So what's a bigger name right now, Brittany Griner or any UFC fighter? I mean, I'm just stating facts.
Anybody but Brittany Griner. Like, there's people in the United States in jail for pot. I mean, come on.
No politics, guys. That's it. That was our politics segment.
Don't get me started on politics.
I'd like to see the jail fights, the jail beefs with her knocking someone out in prison. Get Brittany Griner in there a little bit,
Brittany Griner versus Olga the Smash.
Olga the Smash.
And we just got canceled. Hey, so Trav, you picked Dariush this weekend, and Preston didn't have an opinion on it, wasn't on the same side as it, and he ended up winning, man. So you get to do your lap, bro. Go for it.
Beneil Dariush, let me tell you, this guy has been in the UFC since 2014. He's only lost a handful of fights. His record is currently 22-4-1, one being a draw. He's maybe lost 3 fights in the past 3 years. All the other ones have been decision, submission. He's majority a decision fighter. He usually goes the length. But as we saw this weekend, he has the power to knock people out.
Right on.
He dropped him in the very last round. That overhand left was just nasty, connected perfect. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better ending to a fight that was pretty grueling and back and forth. It was up in the air, first 2 rounds, but the ending of it was pretty sweet for Beneil.
And for those of you listening and not watching, I just wrote down Dariush. From now on, we're going to bet the fights to go over 3 rounds because I have faith in Travis's analysis for sure. From now on, we're going over 2.5 rounds on the fights that he participates in. Speaking of betting, let's hop to the most controversial fight of the weekend, man. O'Malley and Jan. I know both of you guys have some takes about this one, man. Go for it, rip.
So I really liked the fight. It was super aggressive right from the start, like we all knew was going to happen. They're both bangers. They can stand on the feet, or it can go to the ground. O'Malley, we haven't seen so much of his ground game, but we know what he's capable of on the feet, which he has excellent handwork, footwork, pretty much all the things you want as a striker. Peter Yan, I think he was really doing it with the wrestling, but because of the striking that O'Malley was putting out, I think that kind of nullified what he was doing on the ground. Granted, he did have a significant amount of control time. I just really think people are being kind of biased because everybody loves Peter Yan.
Oh, Roby.
Whoa.
How'd you have it scored? How'd you have it scored, Roby?
So before we get into what I had, I will establish by saying I wanted Sean O'Malley to win that fight.
I wanted him to win too. We had
I wanted Sean O'Malley to win that fight. I was happy he did win. And this is one of those situations where judging always comes up where if you've got a guy that's particularly good on the ground and you've got a guy that's good at striking, what matters more? And really that comes down to personal bias. I mean, if you have a lot of control time, but you're not doing any damage, should that count more than someone that's landing more strikes and is doing more damage? I mean, and it kind of goes back and forth. What I found interesting about that is all the rumblings were, well, it depends on how you had round 1. And to be honest, I had round 1 for Peter. I had round 2 for O'Malley. and then I had round 3 for Peter. To me, it came down to that round 3 because there was a good bit of both of them going back and forth. Even in the striking, it seemed like in round 3, Jan landed some punches. Now, was that the fight where Buddy got split on the eye real bad?
I think that was a lot of the decision too. Was Jan got split, man, and I think that if you got to draw a line, you got to take the person that's not bleeding or not bleeding.
Well, that's what I mean. In my opinion, like when you're watching a fight, I get the wrestling aspect of it, and I respect that. It's of talent, and it takes a lot of dedication to master. But nonetheless, like whenever I think of Sean O'Malley, Peter Yan, Peter being a very good boxer, I wanted to see more standing and trading than I did, laying and praying. But nonetheless,
I like it.
I think he knew that wasn't the way to go. I think him and his coaches probably had the discussion because O'Malley definitely had the length advantage. I think the game plan, it looked like for Jan was to stay in tight, not let O'Malley use his range. I don't think he did a very good job at that. So even though personally I felt like Jan probably should have won that fight, I'd like to see them fight again, especially with the big jump for O'Malley coming from 11-1. I think it just makes sense, and just to have them run it back. They're probably not. They're probably going to keep playing on the media. Sean's a big fucking, a big camera star that the media loves him. So they'll probably try to push him into a fight against Aljamain, which I would love to see that as well.
The thing about it, man, for sure, Dana's not going to put his moneymakers in situations like that, man. Like even if it's for the public, bro, to have that rematch, he's going to keep milking that cow for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that later.
Yeah, we will.
We got some other subjects we're going to talk about in a little bit, but
some real fights and some not fights and some back and forths,
some fake news.
Yeah,
a lot of fake news floating around here recently.
Can't wait, guys.
So back to the O'Malley Yan fight, I had it scored first round, very very close first round for Sean O'Malley. Second round for Yan, obviously with the wrestling and control time, and the third round I thought was even closer than the first, which is why I said it could have went either way. Because honestly, I wouldn't have been surprised if they would have given that to Yan. I wouldn't have been surprised if they would have given it to O'Malley. I just think everybody's kind of like overreacting about it, but nobody likes judges.
Right.
So.
Right. Everybody likes blood, though.
I agree with Preston. I think we need to see it run back, and I think it needs to be a 5-round fight, at least the main event, because then we're going to see who's really about that life.
Well,
that's exactly
and
what
Joe,
Preston said too. I'd love to
Joe
see
Rogan. Joe Rogan brought up an interesting point too, where it's kind of a fault of the judging system because we're under the 10-9 must. So that
like you were saying, it's like what do you grade more? Do you grade the control time, not being able to fight back, just taking damage, for 5 minutes, or do you reward the striker that goes big, goes home,
and a lot of people
tries for that overhand?
A lot of people, forget that it's scored round by round. So those judges, as soon as round 1's over, they fill out their scorecard for round 1. As soon as round 2's over, they fill out their scorecard for round 2, 3, and so on. So I think it's one of those things where if you're asking me collectively, did Sean O'Malley win that fight? Then I'd probably say yes. But if you're telling me, I don't think he won the beginning and end of that fight. I think he very clearly dominated the middle portions and portions of the rounds. But, I think that there is a bias towards strikers. I think that the more striking you can do on your feet and the more times you're punching a guy in the face, refs see that, or, judges see that, and they lean just a little bit more towards the damage done on the feet. Even if you're on the ground, hammer fisting away or on your back. We've seen people get knocked out from their back before. And, so, I don't think they score a lot of that into that either.
Well, I think the replays that they're showing whenever the fighters break and go to their corners, I think that has a lot to do with the influence as far as the judging's concerned, because as humans, I mean, let's face it, we've gotten lazy. So watching the fight, you can sit there and watch it all day long and be like, what just happened? You know what I'm saying? Like, things are happening so quick. And it's those replays that you go back and you see, oh, he actually snuck him under the chin. You know, that looked like it bounced off of his glove. And vice versa. I mean, you can see an eye poke or a scratch that you might not have seen with the replays. And I think that kind of tends to make the judges lean one way or the other. But that's personal opinion.
What it sounds like to me is Travis is advocating for challenge flags and the reviews in UFC now to see if strikes actually did land or not, and to review the cards. We're going to pass
automated judging.
So, automated judging.
Well, just like the MLB.
Bluetooth
similar
gloves.
Similar to the NFL. I mean, obviously, in those weird moments that we've seen in the UFC from previous fights, you know, John Jones, no contest over Matt Hamill for the elbow that he threw.
That was a loss. They gave him a loss for that.
Well, contest.
They did overturn it to a no contest, though. You're right.
Right. They took the loss off of his record because technically, I mean, we're talking about an elbow that was going this way versus an elbow going this way. Either way sucks for whoever's receiving.
I mean, you can kick people. You can kick people in the face, but you can't drop an elbow like that. It's a dumb rule.
In those moments, like when Kevin Holland didn't even get hit in the face with a punch or a kick, he hit old boy's shoulder and it knocked him out cold, starched. He was out, done. I think you should be able to like
the up in the air judging. I mean, for the competitiveness, it's not a whole lot of fun, but it sure does add a lot of drama and a lot of talk.
It doesn't do any good for our wallets, man. Whenever we handicap it, then it gets coin flipped like the next fight we're going to talk about, because we're going to run out of time talking about O'Malley and Yan, guys. Jeez.
Sorry.
We're good. Let's go with the Dillashaw fight, man. Dillashaw. Let's talk about the one that we lost. What a piece of
practice?
You're talking about practice?
Practice? You're talking about practice? Come on, man. If your shoulder pops out just lifting it, you don't fight. There's a lot of people that put their hard-earned money on a good fight they expected to see, where you just went out and maybe it happened during the fight. Maybe it happened before. We don't know that just yet.
See, the thing is, though, not even from a gambling perspective. I mean, sure, we had money. We did have Dillashaw, full disclosure. So of course we're big salty. That's fine. But from a integrity of the sport standpoint,
correct. I mean, that wasn't fair to Aljamain Sterling.
Well, it's not fair to anybody else in that division. And it's just like,
right.
How does that look to Dana? I mean, and he's also coming off the PED scandal too. So he's really, I mean, a lot of negative press going his way, and he's only getting older. So really he's getting in his own way too, because he needed to win that fight to win the belt, you know, and, you know, he could, I mean, I think if he'd have won, we'd have probably seen him retire, but
with all the injuries he's accumulating over the years, I think the road is getting longer the longer he fights.
Well, and that's the thing, is when's he finally going to want to decide to hang him up? Because I mean, I think
if he had delayed the fight, like you had suggested, you know, if you thought he was hurt and you said you're fighting for a belt right now, delay it, push it back, let somebody else up. I mean, it's a double-edged sword for him, right? Like if he's getting older too, like it's a moral decision, man. You already got money in place, you got people you got to feed, man. Like it has been tougher decision than just push it back.
Dillashaw is one of those guys that should have no problem feeding his family. He's got plenty of sponsorships. He's not one of your low-level UFC fighters, and he was champion for a decent little while. So he's not one of those guys at the bottom of the card that's scrapping just to make ends meet. And I understand that there is a lot of fighters in the UFC that probably could be going paycheck to paycheck, but I don't believe Dillashaw to be one of those guys, even with a 2-year layoff.
Man.
I think he might have taken a little bit of a hit after that PED scandal, because that is something he is never going to shake, just like Barry Bonds, Mark McGuire's, Lance Armstrong's, John Jones. Nonetheless,
We've talked about
that
it 4
is not-
times now, and we still have a whole segment.
We
about
still
it,
got it,
guys.
and we still got him. I mean,
UFC is doing what they're
This
designed
guy.
to do. Dana White is doing it, man. It's in
It's
the
working.
news cycle. We've
It's
talked about it
working.
4 times, and we have a whole segment on it, guys.
We brought him up in a Dillashaw in a fight that's like 3, 4, 5 weight divisions away from heavyweight.
I hate
All
how
right, so
much I've mentioned him already. I really don't like it.
We agree that we hate Dillashaw. We're mad that we took him. I don't want to talk about him too much more because then I remember that we lost money on it. We got to give Preston his opportunity to do his victory lap because he called the Oliveira Islam fight. So, Preston, here's your 1 minute of fame. Rip.
Look. So there's 2 types of fighters that I would never advise to bet against. That's Brazilians. That's Dagestani. So this weekend we saw that come to a head. And with Islam being a student of Habib, I've been a big Habib guy since, he beat Michael Johnson when he came back off his injury. So I just had a lot of belief that that system was gonna pay off well for him. And I mean, Habib said it himself. Islam is probably a better version of Habib, and I'm here to stamp my approval on that. The guy just took out Oliveira, who's got the most submissions in UFC history. I mean, for me, this was kind of obvious from the get-go. I mean, to a lot of people, it was a toss-up. And I think it speaks volumes for the future of 155 because Islam took a lot of guys out on his way up there. Or sorry, not Islam. Charles took a lot of guys out on his way up there. And Islam really kind of had an easy road up there. I mean, he didn't fight anybody crazy tough in the top 5. So, I mean, we're going to see. They're going to give him, one of those guys to fight for. It looks like Volkanovski is up next.
Yeah.
That's
going to be interesting for sure. But I told you so. Nana boo boo.
Yeah.
Well, you're up, dog.
My heart bleeds for.
Defend your pick, Travis.
My heart bleeds for Charles Oliveira. Dude's been through so much adversity, and say what you want to about the weight issue the last time, but it came out. That wasn't completely his fault. They're on a different scale of measurement. Whoever tinkered with the scale, shame on you. You messed it up for a good dude. That being said, the performances he's put on Justin Gaethje, Poirier, I mean, you're talking about very sturdy, very secure in their positions in the division. And this guy is just like a wrecking ball to him. Not taken away from Islam Makhachev whatsoever. I'm a fan of that Dagestani wrestling to an extent. But like you said, Dagestani versus Brazilian, I mean, it's really kind of a coin toss on that one at that point. It's all about who gets started faster and better. But after he dropped him, I mean,
that was another thing.
It was kind of heartbreaking to watch him fold as quick as he did. Because as soon as he put that choke on him, he instantly tapped. He was like, I know.
That was actually what surprised me about that fight too. Is if you would have asked me going into that who's going to be the better striker, I would have said Charles because of Charles' submissions kind of make everyone overlook his striking. But Islam looked good. Islam looked solid all the way around. And I'm looking at this top 10 here for lightweight, and I don't see a whole lot of names that are really going to be giving him a problem. Nonetheless, I mean, yeah, I don't see anybody on that list that honestly I would really even like to see fight Islam. I think the Volkanovski angle is good. I don't see Volkanovski winning that fight, but if you'd have told me, is Volkanovski going to beat Max Holloway 3 times, I would have told you probably not. And here we are today. He's beat him 3 times, and he secured his place at the top of that division. And that's why we're even seeing this fight be put together, is because he doesn't even have anybody else to fight. So it's a matchup of 2 guys who are probably going to be at the top of their divisions for a while.
We're talking about a guy that plays rugby professionally.
Yeah, thick boy. He used to be thick.
He used to be 250 pounds.
Big old boy.
Solid problem. So
and he fights
the
at
more
135.
weight, I mean, look at what he's doing in the lightweight division with less weight.
Yeah.
Moving up, I mean, he only becomes more dangerous in my opinion.
Yeah,
or featherweight. Yeah,
you think? Well, That's an interesting angle. I didn't even think about it like that. You know, he did used to be a pretty big boy, but I think it's the height that's going to get him more than anything. I think Islam's going to be a little bit longer. And
Max Holloway 3 times.
True. And he beat Ortega too, which was like, wow.
Both lanky dudes for the division. So, I mean, he finds his way to get in, and he just becomes a problem super close. And if he can get those leg kicks going, anybody, I don't care who you are, that's going to really slow you down.
Right on, right on. Did you enjoy your victory lap, Preston? Did you get it out? Each one of y'all got one.
Just like Habib, I'm undefeated. I smash you, brother. I smash.
No, brother. No.
Yeah, well, I mean, and how interesting is it that between Habib and his protege, they only have 1 loss combined? We're talking about 29-0, 22-1. I mean, those guys out of Dagestan, well, I don't know what's in the water over there, but they need to get some of it shipped over here because I want at least a couple sips of that.
Well, between us 3 and Hezbollah, we are undefeated as coaches and trainers. So shout out to us for
and technically,
undefeated.
Well, while we're at that, I've never lost a fight either. So go ahead and put the belt around me, Dana.
Well, we'll put the camera.
I think Hezbollah's got us all whooped.
He did knock out Shaq.
We'll put the camera on here soon, Preston. I'll give you your first one, bro. No worries.
Thank you.
Let's go to some UFC news. Right. So somebody who has not really been mentioned on this show as of late, John Bones Jones.
I'm sorry, who?
He's been around for a while, man. He's the guy that like kicked somebody and broke his toe and was getting interviewed. Yeah.
Dude, remember that? I always forget about that. He broke the shit out of his toe.
yeah. So is he coming back or not, guys? What do we know?
He's not coming back by the end of this year. Surprise, surprise.
But what did we think 48 hours ago?
What we thought 48 hours ago and what he was tweeting about was a fight between him and Stipe Miocic, which I love because I like Stipe Miocic very much in that fight. I think his hands would be a little too much for John Jones, as we saw out of the Gustafson's fight and Cormier. He got clipped pretty good. Kudos for not going down. But I think moving up to the heavyweight division, he's fighting dudes with a lot more solid punches and kicks. And we're talking about danger zone concussions.
Right.
So whether or not all this beefing up he's been doing for the past 3 years, who knows? We'll see if it's paid off.
Let me ask you your opinion. Do you think that rest makes rust? Do you think the longer he's off, he's gonna miss a beat? No,
honestly,
Preston's a hard no. Preston, you gotta understand that we're gonna be just voices, bro. So you got, what I mean? Like people aren't gonna see you shaking your head now.
No, I don't. Listen, John, if there's anybody that's used to taking a lot of time off, it's John Jones. That guy's got it averaging at least one major scandal and suspension every other year at this point. So if there's a guy that can fight coming off of rust, it's John Jones. And I think until somebody beats him, you can't sit there and say Stipe's going to. I mean, Stipe's good, but Stipe will lose to high-level fighters. And whether it's December 10th, whether it's next April, I don't care if they're in a retirement home getting ready to fight. I'm watching that fight. I don't care. I will say, I do want to just speak up for the rest of the UFC heavyweight division and talk about how that has been an absolute mess here recently with, with Ngannou kind of holding up the top of that division. They already said that they didn't want to do an interim heavyweight fight, which I feel like they're going to make the John Jones Stipe an interim heavyweight fight if Ngannou's not going to be ready in 3 or 4 months after that fight anyways. But it's a mess up there, man. I mean, we got people like Cyril Gahn, Tom Aspinall, Curtis Blades. These guys are at the top of the division waiting for their turn, and everything's being held up because Francis is saying he's hurt. He's wanting to hold out for more money. I mean, and then you've got the John Jones saga over here, which – I mean, we might as well call this segment, is he retired or not? Because, I mean, how long has it been since John Jones has fought? I mean,
All
You know,
right. Speaking of, is he retired or not? Let's hear about McGregor. Is he retired or not?
Don't get me started on that little
I'm a pull
Lucky Charm loving fool.
I'm gonna pull Preston string first, man. Then you get your chance, Trav. Is he retired?
What I mean, what does retired even mean at this point? I mean, Connor throws that word around like it's taking a Sunday vacation. Like, I don't know. I retired 5 times last week from my job. I mean, you know, so I mean, and we saw, yeah, and we saw the news where, I mean, he's out of the USADA pool now. I did hear that there's kind of a confusion going on. I was listening to Chael Sonnen talk about this, where if you voluntarily pull yourself out of the USADA pool, it's only 4 months versus 6 months. Now, I couldn't confirm or deny that. So whether it's 4, whether it's 6 months, you know, there's been rumblings about him fighting Floyd Mayweather again, which, I mean, is Floyd in a walker yet? I mean, that guy's got to be 50 plus.
Bro,
I don't know why.
He's probably aging backwards, bro. He's
a Benjamin Button over there. But I don't understand why everybody keeps calling him out, wanting to fight him. It's like, I guess it's the paycheck, which I can't. Yeah,
what do you
I can't
mean
even.
You don't understand.
I mean, I can't even.
I want to fight him. I'm calling him out.
Right.
Floyd Mayweather, this is my shot. Look, dead in the camera right now. Floyd Mayweather, whenever you want, bro, I'll give you your first L. Let's sign the contracts first, though. Whenever you want it. Is he coming out? Hey, is he retired or not, Preston? Yes or no?
Oh, we're coming up. No, I mean, I think he'll be back sometime next year, late, probably towards December. I think he's waiting. I mean, because we just saw, you know, what's his name? I can't think of his name. The Diaz brother. He just left the UFC, which was about the only interesting fight that I wanted to see. There was the trilogy get completed on that. So personally, I'm not that upset if he doesn't come back. I'm not that big of a Conor guy. I don't think he brings a lot of excitement to 155 or 170. He's not beating Islam. He's not beating Kamaru or Leon Edwards. You know, so if Nate makes his way back to the UFC, I think you probably see Conor try to make his way back, because that's a big money fight for both of them.
Travis, is he retired or not? Travis,
he's done, dude.
He's done.
Little Lieutenant Dan is on his Lambo out in the middle of the Mediterranean doing all the blow and strippers that he can.
He's making a movie. He is making a movie.
You're talking about Roadhouse.
And he said,
first off, bad choice.
And he said
second
multiple times
Conor
that
McGregor.
He'll be done, or he'll fight multiple times before the movie's done. And I don't believe that.
I kind of do, because if you think about it, man, if he's training on set and you can start getting tested immediately, right? He can start getting tested right now. So if he's on set, the movie wraps in 3 months and it doesn't come out for a year, there's facts that he could fight twice.
But who's he going to fight?
I'm not. I mean, maybe you, but what I'm saying is it's possible. I mean, it can happen.
I mean, it's possible, but I don't see it happening.
I mean, I could win the lottery tomorrow, but I mean,
all right. Well, I'll try. You go fight Conor. I'll play the lottery, and we'll see which one.
Hey, if we could do a boxing match, that'd be great. But the UFC pay rates, no siree, not a first time fighter going in there. Speaking
of boxing, that was a great segue. I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but fake fight or real fight? Who we got? Trav, lead us off. Fake fight or real fight?
For who? Jake Paul?
Jake Paul, yeah, come on, man.
Jake Paul, Anderson Silva? Are you kidding me? So, the most recent interview I've read from Anderson Silva is that he full-on disclosed that during his training for this fight coming up against Jake Paul, he's been knocked out twice by his sparring partner. You're talking about a guy that's 36. He used to be untouchable. Now his nose is the biggest bullseye I've ever seen. And he had the audacity to ask his coach, "What should I do? What should I do? I got knocked out." And his coach has the audacity to answer him back, "This is what we train for. This is what you do. You get knocked out, but you fight." Are you kidding me? Hang him up, dude. Forever.
Fake fight or real fight? Preston, I don't know how you follow that one.
Fake.
It's a fake fight.
Fake fight.
Dude, it's all about views with this YouTuber, man. Like, come on.
You're going to have to pay me.
He even signaled in his last fight, "I'm about to hit you hard."
all of this, same thing.
Yeah. You're gonna have to pay me to believe that Jake Paul beat Anderson Silva fair and square, which he's going. I'm predicting that Jake Paul does win by knockout. Win by knockout, which kind of speaks to the UFC pay scale itself. That Anderson Silva's got to go out and fight non-boxers to get a paycheck. And not only that, but he's got to follow up Tyron Woodley and Ben Askren in that aspect. I mean, it's a tough look for
he
Anderson.
had to cancel his last fight because he wasn't selling. Nobody cares about this dude. He's so irrelevant and full of gas. Like, he's just paying people and getting paid for them to take the fall.
True.
And I just feel like that's the whole setup. Like, that's all
not
they
true,
do.
Travis. My 12-year-old nephew loves Jake Paul.
Yeah. So does half of this other millennial generation, but that doesn't make it right.
it don't
Stop making
right.
stupid people famous.
Call this the Boomer podcast, the Boomer MMA podcast.
Jesus Christ!
Well, I gotta call it like I see it.
That's right.
Let's get to fight night, guys. Let's look at the card coming up. We got Chase Hooper versus Steve Garcia in a featherweight fight. Who you got, Preston?
I've got the Chase Hooper. The guy's young. Hoop. All right. And you're going to find often that I'm more biased towards the younger fighter, which Chase is only 23 years old. So he's got some lessons to learn. This could be one of those lessons, but the guy's ground game is phenomenal. And he looks like Ben Askren. And Ben Askren calls him his adopted son. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. I mean, I want to be the adopted
son. I'll whoop your ass.
Oh, no.
You got too much hair to be my dad. That's all I'm saying.
Look, Arlovsky, who you got, Trav, in the heavyweight fight?
Arlovsky, I think his past 5-6 fights, they're all decisions. So he's got the gas tank to still compete. But the dude is getting old. He is like up there with Teixeira. Like, respect for your previous endeavors in the MMA, but sometimes you just got to let it go.
I love Andre. I hope he never retires. I mean, have you seen that nose? I mean, that dude.
Speaking of targets,
yeah, bullseye number 1.
Yeah, I mean, he's had that nose broke more than a few times. But remember when Arlovsky was at the height of MMA? I mean, that guy was awesome. I love Arlovsky.
Oh, he was a killer for sure.
For sure.
But now the only people that get excited about his fight are his rhinoplasty surgeon. He knows it's a guaranteed paycheck. You know what I mean?
Well, and DeLima is a bit of a grappler. Like, DeLima is definitely known for submission wins. I mean, he's got a lot of submission wins, and I don't think Andre's got the ground defense for that. So unless Andre can put him away in the first couple minutes, I think it's going to be and we're going to end up seeing a submission W for Rogerio.
Well, here's the thing about DeLima. The dude's swinging legs for arms. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Massive.
All he has to do is gas him out, and I think that he outlasts him in this fight. That's why I'm giving it to Arlovsky, just on experience alone. I don't think DeLima, unless he gets a lucky shot on that broken-ass nose, I don't think that he connects the way he wants to with him, and I think he gasses.
Yeah.
All right, next
desperation goes for the takedown.
Khalil Roundtree, Dustin Jacoby. Go for it.
Both of them have significant hands. I think this is going to be a fun fight to watch. Roundtree versus Tim Means.
It's Jacoby.
It's Jacoby.
Is it Jacoby? I thought Means. I looked at it earlier. They were right next to each other. That's probably
Means and Griffin's fighting. You got Jacoby and Roundtree. We're all good though, bro. Rip.
And then Jacoby and Roundtree, I think back and forth, it's going to be a good fight. I don't really see a whole lot of grappling unless there's an opportunity for the absolute submission. I don't see either one of them wasting the energy. They're both strikers at best. And I think either one of them is a threat to the other because, like I said, it's just kind of a coin toss whenever you're throwing around arms the size that they have. So any kind of hit is pretty much going to be lights out. We'll see who has the tougher chin and who pulls out the dub on that. I kind of like Khalil Roundtree for it, but a little shaky on that. I'm not going to lie.
Well, Roundtree's been fighting at Tiger Muay Thai since 2019, so I mean we're seeing the culmination of all that work he's been putting in. I see him winning this one, and if he puts some wins together, he could be a guy at that division.
Yeah, for sure. His leg work. I hate the thought of even bumping my shin against a toe hitch, much less taking a soccer kick from that guy full force.
Right,
good Lord.
Right.
Tim Means, Max Griffin, who you got?
I think Max Griffin is going to take it to Tim Means. That being said, Tim Means is very durable. So, more or less, we'll have to see if he can land the big strike that's going to shut Tim Means' lights off. It has been done before, but it's not very frequent.
I tend to disagree on this one.
Ooh, here we go. A little controversy.
Yeah. So, I kind of
don't have to get along all the time.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you can keep the kids on the weekend. I mean, I can get them during the week. I mean,
let's go.
Yeah. So Means has won the last 3 out of his last 4 fights, or 3 out of his last 4. He did lose to Kevin Holland, but I mean, Kevin Holland's talented. It's not like a terrible loss to have on your record, especially when Buddy was winning 5 rounds in a single year that year. But Griffin just always seems to lose to upper level fighters. Seems like anybody even, that's really relevant at that division, if Max Griffin's fighting them, he's kind of more like a stepping stone. To be honest, I'm not sure how this fight even got made, because I am of the school that Tim Means is well above Max Griffin's level. I think that Means handles business the way he's supposed to, and then he goes on to the next fight. I don't think that it's even going to be a thought in his mind.
So somebody's going to get to take a victory lap on the next episode. Everybody have their running shoes.
That's right.
I like Tim Means' experience. I don't like his chin. Like I said,
at that weight too, anybody can win.
Right.
Yeah,
and that dude is pretty fast with his hands. And I think if he lands a good, solid shot early on in the fight, we have either a first round or a second round knockout.
Ooh, we're gonna write that down for the Drive Across 65. Looking like we might take the under in the length of the fight, like that under in the Means Griffin.
But if Tim Means can absorb those shots and come forward, his experience wins.
What about the what about the main, Preston?
Oh, the main event, we got Cater versus Allen. This is going to be a really good fight because neither one of these guys is particularly known for their groundwork. I think we're going to see a lot of striking going on in this fight. Yet again, going to lean more towards the younger fighter here. I think Allen's got everything to win in this fight, and Cater's got everything to lose in this fight. So, to be honest, props to Cater for taking this one. This is one that you wouldn't see a lot of guys that are trying to vie for a championship take, because Allen is 18-1. So I mean, we're definitely going to see, the who's who at the top of that division. They're going to go at it. I mean, I think that Allen's probably going to use this as a way to springboard his way up. So, I mean, when I say that Allen's got everything to gain, I mean, it's this, that he's, a lower ranked fighter. He's a newer guy. If he loses this fight, it doesn't necessarily spell bad news for him. But for Cater, it's one of those where you've got to prove that you still belong type deals. I just see Allen taking it, though. I think Allen's hungrier. I think Allen's probably overall the better fighter. No offense to Cater, but I think he's going to use him as kind of another gatekeeper type, where Cater's kind of the guy controlling who's coming in and out of that top 5 there.
I kind of see this being a slow and calculated dogfight. I think it's going to go back and forth so much to the point where it's going to be like, oh, who's going to get the next shot? Honestly, both have brutality on their side. Both have heavy hands and are super aggressive and lots of heart. That's what I love about both fighters.
They both won it.
Arnold,
they both won it.
Yeah, for sure. Arnold Allen knocked out Dan Hooker and had a decision win over Sadiq Youssef. Both not easy competition, especially not Dan Hooker. I mean, let's be real. The fights that he's put on, it's hard to deny the talent that he possesses. So for Arnold Allen to take that away from him, I think that makes a statement. And I think both of their gas tanks being the way they are, the way they throw, if we have a dogfight like we're talking about and nobody's, keeping stamina in focus, I think it's a wild fight. Super unpredictable. But okay. I like Arnold Allen in it.
I'd like to see the winner of that fight Josh Emmett. I think that would be a great fight.
I think that's the next fight to make.
Bam, 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 bam. All right. So I know this isn't a great card, and I really want to make this a really interesting segment. Unfortunately, it's not going to be this episode that we do it, but let's do the snap, tap, or nap. Get our toes wet with it. Who wants to go first? Snap, tap, or nap?
By all means, Preston, go for it.
All right. So, can I explain the snap, tap, or nap real quick? Can we explain that?
Away. Just rip. Yeah, hell yeah.
All right. So for snap, obviously that's kind of a go either way for me. I'm kind of interpreting that more as snap, like that's an exciting fight, which we're gonna see. Of course, I'm picking Allen versus Cater. I think that's the most exciting fight on the card. I think that's the most evenly matched fight on the card. I mean, of course, Allen being the younger, more eager guy, that's who I'm picking. So I think we're going to see an snap. There goes Cater. He's losing. For tap, that one's pretty self-explanatory here. We're going to be picking a submission on the fight where we think someone's going to be tapping. Got Garcia on there. I think Hooper comes out strong. I think he's going to be fighting his way up, trying to make his way into the rankings of that division. And I don't think it lasts very long. I think he's probably, because he's not a guy to stand up and fight. So I think he's going to immediately try to shoot for takedowns, try to get Garcia down to the ground, get him submitted, get out of there, and, take care of business. And then for nap, I've got Tim Means. I believe he's going to be knocking out little buddy.
Whoa. So you said it in reverse, man. What are we doing here? It's your first day? What are we talking about? So Means is going to be giving the naps or going to be taking the naps?
He's going to be giving the naps. Sorry. He's going to be giving the naps. He's going to put him to sleep.
Griffin.
Rookies.
Griffin.
This is literally
You're
a rookie.
You're
literally a rookie. This is literally my first time doing this.
Griffin's gonna be taking a nap, huh? Griffin.
Sorry.
Griffin's napping. I gotta get my white out. We went 55 minutes without me having to use white out.
I know. I apologize.
Trav, give me your snap, tap, or nap.
Snap. I kind of go along with Preston on that one. An exciting fight. I think Roundtree and the other fella could be a potentially exciting fight. But
Jacoby and Roundtree?
Yeah, Jacoby and Roundtree. But honestly, I'm going to have to agree with Preston on that. I think Calvin Kattar and Arnold Allen obviously steal the show whenever it comes to snap. With Arnold Allen taking full advantage of the snap on that scenario.
Right on.
Tap, I see Arlovsky and Hooper both pulling out the jiu-jitsu submission games. I don't really see a potential knockout between Arlovsky and DeLima. Like I said, unless he gets clipped by DeLima's calf, I see Arlovsky enduring, possibly submitting him. Most definitely Chase Hooper, always looking for submission. young fella. He's got the heart to do it. So,
and he looks
Chase
like Ben
Hooper
Askren.
takes the yuck. And then the nap, I'm going to have to go on the opposite side of the coin as you on that one, Preston. I think Griffin is the one dealing the nap. I think he's got the hands to deliver said nap. But if he gasses, experience is obviously going to go to Tim Means. But that's who I have slated for my snap, tap, or nap.
Ooh, we're going to have some stuff to talk about next week, guys. Ooh. All right. Everybody happy? Wraps us up. Season 1, episode 1 of The Guys. Pronounced geese. Looks like guys.
I think it is guys.
I think we are guys. The guys.
I think we all three pronounce it differently. So whatever way you pronounce it, the guys, the geese, just like and subscribe.
Right on. Like, subscribe, comment. You'll see us on Twitter. Vote in the polls, retweet it. Look out for us, guys. These two are freaking geniuses, masters of their craft, have tons of knowledge. We've been riding with them on Drive Across 65, telling their bets, been crushing it. We'll have the bets out Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon. If we're not going to make this a gambling podcast, guys, I promise you I wouldn't. And we're just going to talk about MMA. But there is a betting aspect to it, and we're going to have that out for everybody Saturday who is interested. Check us out. Yeah, you gotta make money, man. I mean, yeah, this software
have money
isn't
to
free,
bet.
man.
Until people like and subscribe. Until people like and subscribe enough, that's what we're gonna have to do. Keep chipping away at it.
Right on. Hey, that wraps us up, guys. Appreciate everybody listening. Good luck, everybody.
Shout out to Mountain Dew Amp.